and so Bisu is going to be forced to be very careful. Okay, finally all the vultures lost, but several probe kills there. Beautiful play by Fantasy. He just needs to do this. He needs to just continue harassing Bisu, just completely not allowing Bisu's economy to come up, not allowing Bisu to do what he wants to do. Bisu is going to try to take a base at the 9 o'clock, the middle, 9 o'clock position. Try to take a third there as well. First Arbiter is going to be on the way, so we're going to see whether Bisu manages to use these Arbiters in the way to give himself victory. Now going to go around some mine hunting. Has the Observer out in the field to help him here. Pylons being used to block off this 9 o'clock base. He really needs to do that because as soon as Fantasy spots that, his Vultures are going to be there in a second. Only 3 factories so far for Fantasy. He did go for a third expansion. This mineral only inside 5 o'clock. So I think as soon as his macro is going to really start booming. 5 gateways alongside that Stargate for Bisu. Don't really know if he has the economy for these. He has to be very careful. He's teched up very quickly, so he's not going to have the amount of forces he would want to have. He should have a lot more forces on the ground, honestly, in my opinion. He has quite a few Dragoons, but overall not that much. Now Fantasy is going to be able to spot this 9 o'clock gateway being used to block off by Bisu, so he knew those Vultures were coming in. Vultures are not going to be able to get through. There's also a cannon in place. So the Vulture's not going to be able to do any harassment there. And Bisu actually sending out a probe. Oh, someone over the probe being caught in transition. The gateway gets cancelled. So Pylons are going to be the final block off. But several probes being caught there by Fantasy. So he's very persistent. And very interesting that Bisu using his Observer to scout at the north. He remembers one of his losses. One of the games he lost in the OSL was simply because Fantasy had a base, a hidden base, way off where on the map that Bisu didn't spot at all. Just the entirety of the game. Bisu had no idea that Fantasy had one whole base over him. And that really paid for Fantasy in the end. Fantasy really managed to get a huge economic advantage, huge troop advantage. Fantasy also has armories out in the field, so Goliath's inbound as well as Weapons 1 upgrades. Bisu still, I believe, waiting on his first Arbiter. They take a while to build. Also takes a while to research all the spells, assuming that's also the way. Fantasy still has another dropship in play, so he's going to try to drop on this new 9 o'clock position. Most likely several Vultures. There is a cannon there, so we're going to see how effective that is. Also Vultures just outside of that base, just planting down mines, because he's actually going to Vulture using a couple of tanks to take out the cannon. The cannon's going to get taken out, and the Vulture's going to be ferried right towards there. Oh, beautiful there. Shuttle coming in with an Arbiter, though, so we're going to see how well that manages to prevent that. Scans are not going to be able to come off. Arbiter moves back, though. Zealots do get dropped and are going to be able to kill these Vultures. Nice reaction timing there by Bisu. Almost managed to take down the dropship, but beautiful play there by Fantasy to try to take that position down. Again, Bisu going to be forced to cannon off, and Bisu actually taking a base near the 12 o'clock position, I believe. Yeah, at the 11 o'clock natural expansion, I believe that is. And we're going to see with the Fantasy again moving down with a dropship that actually should be taking out one shot from the other. We might even be able to take it down. But Bisu with a distraction moving. Oh, Fantasy, beautiful distraction moving in with Vultures. Actually going to push that dropship a little bit further north. All the Zealots on the ground being taken out by mines. Dropship still in play. Almost taken out. One more hit. 3 health points at this point. One more hit and that dropship goes down. So Fantasy is going to be forced to fly that back and most likely repair it. You really want to repair it instead of having to rebuild it. More factories coming down for Fantasy finally. Only 3 still, just his 4th on the way. So his macro still hasn't properly kicked in, despite him being on 3 bases. I assume he's going to start adding in even more factories fairly soon. But Bisu is going to try and take his 4th base. So both players playing an economic game. Fantasy getting a few of his Vultures caught, not quite paying attention to those. So the Vulture terrorists abandoned several of his Vultures. Oh well, Vultures trying to run back. Possibly just Fantasy, just ignoring those, just as make Bisu waste his time. Bisu has, 6 gateways at this point up, so he's macroing up quite proper. He has quite a few Dragoons on the field, several Zealots there as well. Well, Fantasy has a pretty good position overall. He's built another command center, so he's thinking of taking another expansion. He's going to float it off. I think I heard the float off just now. And he has Weapons 1 as well. He's going to take this 3 o'clock position where he's floating an engineering base. Well, there's an observer there. So he is going to be able to spot that base coming up. And we're going to see what the Bisu actually... He's moving out a lot of force. He has 2 Arbiters in play alongside a lot of Dragoons. He's going to need... Yeah, there we go. The Zealot, the speed upgrade Zealot's also coming into play. I'm not quite sure whether Fantasy actually has enough army for this. Weapons 1 upgrade as well. There are a lot of tanks in the field. Science vessel out for Fantasy. This could be critical. If he manages to get an EMP off, this could be critical. But Bisu actually going to move now towards several attempts, going to get spotted. Fantasy not in a very good position. Some scans going off, but Fantasy overall not in a beautiful position. Has a lot of tanks spread out. And, oh, Stasis comes in before the EMP goes off. So the Science Vessel just sits there uselessly, and Fantasy is going to get this inside 5 o'clock completely crushed. This is going to get taken out. Fantasy, oh man, Bisu with weapons, 2 upgrades, not going to be just run all over this, what Fantasy has. Fantasy has several more tanks, but no forces to support. Oh man, commands are going to be floated off. I'm not going to be able to do too much. Fantasy trying to hold, has some more siege tanks, repairing, losing one of his own siege tanks due to one of his other siege tanks. Moving in from the south side with vultures and even more tanks. Possibly thinking of going for a pistol, trying to catch Bisu inside, but I don't think he has enough forces. Bisu has a great advantage over vultures, trying to use as many mines as possible. Oh man, Arbiters and Dragoons all coming in north. Even more forces coming from the ground. Speed Zeals and High Templars on the way, and Fantasy, I think, is in deep trouble. He's lost 1 base so far. No forces yet really for him. Bisu, what is that? 10 gateways? Holy crap, he's 2 Stargates getting Arbiters. He had a temporary time when he did not have the force, but now he's been allowed to macro up. Stasis going off, and a lot of those forces are Arbiters. Bisu went for early Arbiters so he would have the energy throughout, but beautiful play for him so far. Now going to storm down Fantasy's natural expansion, and Fantasy now in a lot of trouble. No forces are coming in for him whatsoever. The Stasis blocking off whatever reinforcements. He's actually flying with a dropship towards the 12 o'clock position. There are a couple of cannons there, though, so he's not going to be able to accomplish too much. High Templar morphing into Archons to stay alive, and Fantasy losing everything. Both of the armories at the natural expansion, everything going to get lost there. His upgrades going to get lost, and Fantasy at this point, I don't really see him coming back into this. He has that 9 o'clock base mining. I believe Fantasy even went for the 2 o'clock base there. I'm not quite sure whether that's a floated building or a base that Fantasy went for, but he's in trouble. Bisu also went for the 11 o'clock natural, I believe, and oh man, Fantasy now, 3 Arbiters alongside Dragoons. Fantasy is going to do some harassment at the upper left, but no, just nothing going to happen here. Far too many Arbiters, far too many forces. He has to fight back with nothing but turrets. A few tanks coming in for those factories. Only 5 factories on the ground for Fantasy. Oh my god, where is his macro? His macro should have kicked in by now. Fantasy, the type of guy you expect just, whoa, an army out of nowhere. How did that happen? So yeah, he's going to be able to take out the base, one of the bases at the 11 o'clock, but not too much else. Vultures trying to be microed, but yeah, overall you can see the look on Fantasy's place. He's lost this. He's lost the first set, so he's going to try to do some harassment here at the 9 o'clock, trying to put his tanks out there to take out a shuttle up Bisu with the reactions. Yeah, shuttle being there, and Fantasy GG's. Fantasy tried to go for yet another harass there at the 9 o'clock, take out a cannon and do some damage, but Bisu, beautiful timing. Just got up an army out of nowhere and managing to reinforce it and take Fantasy out. So Fantasy has to sit down and collect himself. For the next 2 games if he wants to be able to take this one away from Bisu. So we're going to see what the players yet. Bitter teammates. They're not even going to walk up to next to each other. No handshake. No. Oh, well, man. Maybe next time. Nothing. Nope. No teammate play. Nothing like that. Just, I beat you. Haha, I'm going away. So yeah, Bisu going to sit down in the SK room, where I believe Kanata was sitting earlier as well, and Fantasy most likely going to join him there fairly soon. So they're going to sit down and chat. Fantasy can sit down and go, what the hell is that? Oh man, yeah, Fantasy looking obviously a little bit distraught. Was not expecting that. Got caught off guard. Mahmad's skill build did not work. Oh god, yeah, there's Kanata and Kingdom sitting there as well. Bisu should be somewhere close by. Where's that Bisu sitting there? Yeah, that is Bisu sitting there. Never mind. Fantasy off somewhere, rambling to himself, talking to Uv, trying to get himself collected. We're going to see when it manages. I'm still not counting Fantasy out of this. I'm expecting, if anybody can bring himself back into this, it's Fantasy. So look forward to more from these 2 guys once they continue this set. It's going to be awesome. But Bisu with beautiful plays so far, and he might yet get himself into the round of 8 of this MSL. So Bisu is the MSL guy. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. That, I believe, is the last match of the first round of the round of 16. We're going to have 3 more games on Saturday, and that's going to be a continuation then. So GG guys, ranching out. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.